Okay, so we are learning Shaar Dalet Perek Yud Aleph, and here, let me just remind you of our learning that the Nefesh Hachaim said, a chidush nifla, mashallah nemru b'kol ha'achronim, as far as I know, or in the Rishonim, maybe the Talmidim of Nefesh Hachaim said it, but not before him, and that is that if everybody in the world, God forbid, would stop learning Torah, if there would be no Torah in the world would be chayzer l'toyu v'avayu. He says himself later, I don't even have a raya for this. He just knows it's true. So nobody says otherwise. I was like, nobody says, well, if we stop learning Torah, okay, the world would be great. But nobody that I can find, and I looked into it, says so strongly as he does, that the world would be chayzer l'toyu v'avayu. And he goes on to explain why this would be. None of them are, I just want to point out, none of them are a raya, that the world will be chayzer l'toyu v'avayu. And frankly, I, for one, don't want to take a chance on this. But what he does do is bring many chazals that demonstrate this point. In other words, there's a difference between a raya and this fits in over here and it fits in over there. But it's a interesting yesod, not so much a theoretical question as to whether the world would go back to Toyu Vavayu, and we're guaranteed that there's always going to be Lamed Vav Tzadikim and people learning Torah, and even he explains in one place, even in the Pirkei Avos, I think, even how the time, what do they call it, the time zones are for this purpose. That while we're not learning Torah here in Eretz Yisrael, they're learning Torah in Australia, etc. But that's the more important part about this chiddush is that the power of Torah itself. In other words, not whether the Torah is going to go, whether the world's going to blow up. That's not the question. The question is, like, what are we doing when we're learning Torah? So you can go from, well, we're getting good information. We're learning our tachlis in life. You can go from that to, wow, like, this mitzvah that we're doing of limud Torah right now is like it's like plugging the world into a charger. It's like really charging it up. You can learn that it's being machaya and giving chiyus to the olam asal yonim. You can learn that, and we've gone over all those yesodis. I don't want to go over it again. Or you can say, if you unplug the Torah, it's not like you unplug your cell phone. If you unplug the Torah from the world is chayzer l'toyu v'avayu. Now that's a much bigger chiddush. It's like, in other words, this is the world, and shows you the koach of Torah, which needs to be explained. Like, why would limud Torah be the battery pack or whatever you want to call it in the world itself? Lefi Rabbeinu Chaim Volozhin, that the world will go back to Toyu V'Vayu. And another point is that he makes a distinction, very important distinction, between Torah and mitzvahs. Don't think I'm talking about if nobody would be frum. I'm talking about Torah. I'm not talking about mitzvahs. People don't do mitzvahs, different story. But if without Torah, the world would be chayzer, to the exact lashon is be chayzer l'toyu. So again, now we have to make even a finer distinction. It's not like if there wouldn't be tzadikim, or if there wouldn't be lamed vav tzadikim, or there wouldn't be people doing mitzvahs. Talk about people wouldn't be learning Torah. The world would be chayzer l'toyu. So we have a distinction between Torah and mitzvahs. I would like to posit before I say anything here that Toyu V'Avayu, Bereishis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz v'ha'aretz haisa Toyu V'Avayu v'choshech al panei tohaim. That state of Toyu V'Avayu, firstly, what seems to be clear, that people think mistakenly that that's before the Bria. Aretz haisa Toyu V'Avayu. It's not the before the Bria. The before the Bria, we have no idea what it doesn't talk about before the Bria. The Torah starts with the base because there's a whole aleph out there behind that. We have no idea what that. But Tov Vavo was the first step of creation itself. So if you can understand a world of Chayshech, you can understand a world of Toyu Vavayu. And if you can understand a world without grass, you can understand a world without Toyu Vavayu. Toyu Vavayu was the first. Bereishis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz v'ha'aretz haisa Toyu Vavayu v'choshech al pnei toim. So that was the hascholas habriya, wasn't before the bria. I would like to posit that Toyu refers to Torah and Bayu refers to mitzvahs. And being that we're making a distinction here between Torah, limud Torah, and mitzvahs, I want to make the same distinction between Toyu and Vayu. And first of all, the biggest raya to that is that if you look at the Chazal, that the world is 6,000 years old. The first 2,000 years is what? Toyu. Doesn't say anything about Toyu v'Vayu. The first 2,000 years, people did do mitzvahs. But, we find Yaakov Avinu did Erev Tavshilin. We find people did mitzvahs. Before him. But we find mitzvahs per se they did. Or didn't do. Like Adam Arishan had a mitzvah, like Seichel Min Eitz. There was an Indian of mitzvahs. But the Indian of Torah, in any way that we understand it from Avram Avinu or Har Sinai, let's say, so that's the absence, not of Toyu v'Vayu, but it's the absence of Toyu, a very, very important thing. So, Ladati, Toyu is a lack of Torah, and Vayu is a lack of mitzvahs. I want to be machalik here for a second with what is Ladati, a Yesod Nifla, in the difference between Torah and mitzvahs. What's the difference between Torah and mitzvahs? We say it together, Torah mitzvahs. What's the difference? Kishem shenichnas lebris kentikanes l'Torah l'chuppah l'maisim tovim. Maisim tovim presumably mitzvahs. Torah is Torah. And the distinction I heard from my Rebbe Zecher Tzadik Levracha is as follows, very important yesod, that we find by Torah, let's say you're learning Torah or teaching Torah, we find that there's an Indian, for instance, many different halachas. There's an Indian, for instance, of mahu b'china mafatza b'china. You're not allowed to charge money to teach Torah. Hashem's teaching for free, I'm giving the shiur for free. Your Rebbe has to make a living, etc. Shaar batola. You can't pay him for the Torah, you can pay him for money he could have made on the outside, he's bevatel, all kinds of things in Shulchan Aruch Yeridea that it says. By mitzvahs, we never find anywhere in Shulchan Aruch that if you're selling esrogim, you're not allowed to charge money or make money. If you're selling tefillin, nobody says you're not allowed to charge money or make money. It's a parnasa. Questionable parnasa, dubious parnasa in a certain way, but it's there's no din of bechinam. So why is it that Torah is bechinam? Let me ask the question deeper. Why do we say mahu bechinam, avata bechinam? Okay, God does it for free. Okay, that's his choice. He's God, the philanthropist. But why should we do it for chinam? People charge a lot of money. And why by mitzvahs don't we say mahu bechinam, avata bechinam? So the Rishivas. What?
It belongs to everyone.
Right. So a yesod to think about, correct? That Torah is coming from the top to the bottom. Hashem said the Torah, we get the Torah. Mitzvahs are coming from the bottom to the top. We do mitzvahs. Yep. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai, Masr Yeshua, Yeshua is a Canaan. We took the Dvar Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu took the Dvar Hashem, and I'm summarizing a lot of the Nefesh Hachaim, but this is the Yesod as I was makabelet. Moshe Rabbeinu took the Torah from the Shemayim, gave it to the Aretz, and not just Philip, it belongs to everyone. We are now shluchim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shluchah de Rachmana, or shluchah de Dan, to continue, that's what happened to Har Sinai, to continue filling up the Umala Aretz Chachma, to continue the teaching of Torah. We're doing God's work here. Mashiach King, when we do mitzvahs, we're not doing God's work. We're doing our work, which Hashem commanded us to do. So as long as we're doing Hashem's work, so we have to say, you got to be like Hashem. Mahu b'china mafata tiya b'china. When we're doing our work, so do your work. Do your work. So in a sense, when we're teaching Torah, we're like Moshe Rabbeinu. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor. When we're teaching Torah, V'shinantam levanacha v'dibarta bam, or we're teaching Torah b'tzibur, or we're teaching Torah, whatever we're doing. But when we're teaching Torah, and for that matter, when we're learning Torah, we're being oisek in the Dvar Hashem, Ki mitzion teitzei Seira, Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. We're taking, however that Torah gets into this world, we're taking it and we're pushing it hala. We're going weiter with the Torah. We're teaching the Torah. We're giving it to the next generation. We got it to Levincha. Comes to mitzvahs, that's not what we're doing. There's maybe a legacy of behavior, but it's not that we're to the extent that we're teaching Torah, we're giving over mitzvahs to the next generation. But there's no mitzvahs and mitzvah shebegufa. I can't put on tefillin for my son. I can't. So that's mitzvah. The difference between Torah and mitzvahs. I think it's a Yesod Nifla, which Rav Scheinberg Zecher Tzadik Levracha said in Halacha, said it in a Mishmer, and I think it's a Yesod for many inyanim of Halacha and many inyanim of Hashkafa and Musar. So Nekoit Klal Zeh B'Yodcha. It's a very I don't know what comes out of all these shiurim, but when I say over something from that I was makabel from my Rebbe, I feel like I'm giving over a Messiah. So this is an important Messiah.
Rebbe, when we said the first 2,000 years were tohu, so I didn't understand. The first 2,000 years are tohu. Tohu is Torah. Bohu is mitzvah. So how are we explaining that?
Okay, I didn't yet. So I am now. Tohu means wonderment. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what we're here for. We don't know why there's a world and what the world is. And, Nebuch on people that are born into the world and die from the world and try to figure out like why they're here. We have the Torah. We have the Torah, and we know why Hashem created the world. We understand what we're supposed to do in the world. We understand the purpose. If not for Torah, everything would be Tahaim. V'ha'is Tayu, v'vayu v'chayshech apnei Tahaim. Tayu means everything would be a question. Like, the Rambam says at the beginning of Hilchos Tshuva, that he calls Tshuva Tohe al Harishon. It's like I'm not Tshuva, but if I'm undoing, if I'm questioning, if I'm, that's Toha. It's a lashon of the Rishonim even. Tohu HaRishonim. Taisa says it in a few places. Tahaim is a lashon, an abyss. It's like a lack of understanding B'chlal. Lashon Tema. Tahaim, lashon Tema. And we spoke about that last week, but I just want to, continue. That's Torah, a world without Torah. Bayhu is the lashon of Bahola. Bahola is, we always say confusion, but it really means that. But when we're Bahola, it means we're in a state of not just confusion. That's Torah. Not just we don't know what we're doing here, what the heck is going on, but Bohu means we are in a panic during this confusion. So if you look, let's say in Parshas Bechukoisai, where part of the klola or the teichacha that we receive, God forbid, if we don't do mitzvos, and we don't do mitzvos b'simcha, so then we, God forbid, get bahala. Not tohu, we get bahala. Meaning when we're violating our own instruction manual, the whole Parshas Bechukoisai is talking about the instruction manual of mitzvahs. You don't worship Avodah Zarah, you keep Shabbos, etc. Mitzvahs aseh, mitzvahs lois aseh. So that's always parallel to Bahala. And Bahala is a state of, imagine it's a lawless state. You watch the news and you understand how scary it is for the world to be lawless even for a minute. There's no seder, but laws have to do with what we do, the behaviors that we take, the ethics that we take on, the way we relate to other people, the opposite of chaos. So, every day we say tachton, we say v'nafshi nivhola ma'oid. That I'm in a bahala. So the bahala that the parsha is talking about in Parshas Toichacha, says Mefurish in the Chazal, that the bahala that we're talking about is Golus Bayis Rishon, and probably Golus Bayis Sheni, because I'll talk about it as Golus Bayis Rishon. What happens when there's a Golus? Okay, here we were. The whole Klal Yisrael was Yashvu al Admasam, everybody. If you were a Jew, you lived in Israel, and if you're in Israel, you were a Jew for the most part. But if you were a Jew, you lived in Israel, you had the Beis HaMikdash, you had the Kohanim, you had the Talmidei Chachamim, you had Tanoim. That was the Bayis Rishon era. It was built by Shlomo HaMelech. That's where the Jews went. Went through David HaMelech, Yoshua ben Nun, David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech. We were there. Then all of a sudden there's Golus. So what does that Golus mean? What's the meaning of that Golus? Okay, we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. That's what everybody says. It's pretty bad not to have a Beis HaMikdash, but in my opinion, it misses the whole point. You should have a Beis HaMikdash. How many of us are really, really, maybe the Chavetz Chaim waking up in the morning and, oh my God, I need a Beis HaMikdash. We don't ask for that. We say, Shiyabana Beis HaMikdash. Well, we're talking about really, the world is in chaos. The world's in a state of panic. When we went into Golus Bayis Rishon, when the Babylonians threw us out of Eretz Yisrael, and this was their kavanah, by the way, this was their kavanah, was to create a bahala. We were in a state of panic. We had no homes. We had no real estate. We had no farms. We had no country that would really accept us. Chazal we say in the beginning of Kinos that when we came out, the first stop we met was the Al Naras Bavel, Sham Yashavnu, Gam Bachinu. The first people we met were the Aravim, Chazal calls Arabs of some sort, and we thought they would be friendly with us because they're our cousins, the Bnei Yishmael, and instead they tried to kill us. They offered us water, and the water was salty water, and we drank it, and thousands of people died. We were so thirsty. But the Bahala is a state of panic. And a state of panic comes from lawlessness, and that's the Pshat mitzvos. So in my mind, although I haven't seen this Mefurish, I have to say, but I'm just saying what I think, that in my mind, Toihu is a lack of Torah, and Boihu is a state of panic, which would come from a lack of law and order, a lack of mitzvos. If everybody is keeping either the Taryag mitzvahs or the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, you know what? The world is not chaotic. Nobody's killing each other. Nobody's stealing from each other. If everyone keep the Ten Commandments, for heaven's sakes, like the world would be a non-chaotic place. So in
other words, the first creations were these chesronot, that Hashem created these massive, all-encompassing chesronot.
For sure.
What then is choshech?
Yeah, those are the four golias. Toyu v'vayu v'choshech al pnei tohim. But toyu was a matzah. V'choshech al pnei tohim refers back to the toyu.
Rabbi, would this also count if they did the mitzvahs not b'simcha? Or targum mitzvahs and shiva mitzvah b'nei Noach, but not b'simcha?
Not only it has to be b'simcha, but it has to be from Hashem. It has to be lishma. And probably the reason for that is, just common sense reason for it is, that if it's not done properly b'simcha, if you're not happy to do it, and it's not, you don't understand this min hashamayim. I know atheists, intellectual atheists, struggle with this, all day. Like, why should I be ethical? Why should I be? Okay, kiyum olam. 11:30 last night, for some reason, I watched a professor speak. As a professor on, because of the corona, speaking, gave a lecture on preparing for death. So don't ask me what morbidity inside of me is. Tell me to watch it. I watched it. But just it struck me that the whole preparing for death. Make a list of all the people you hurt, make a list of all the people that you owe money to, blah blah blah. Missed the whole point. It wouldn't have prepared me for death at all, because why? Who cares if you're? But once you know, why do I need to apologize to somebody if I'm going to end up 6 feet under? Like the whole thing was muksha mitchilavat, like missing the main point, as these people often do, in my opinion. But what I'm saying is that it has to be b'simcha, and it has to be lishma. And if you imagine such a world, it's a world without panic. And when you're in panic, you kill people. I want to say I'm not a political person, as you know, or a news commentator. But like all the alleged, I would imagine most of the alleged, shootings and police brutality, which I'm not sure how documented the whole thing is compared to the population of the police department in the United States of America, but I don't want to get into that. But all of them are probably in a state of bahala. Dahainu, not that it was self-defense. I'm saying a different nakuda. It's not that it was self-defense. It's bahala. The policeman is not trained well enough. He goes into a state of bahala. He goes into panic. When you're in a state of panic, you shoot, you do all kinds of things. I'm not talking about the guy with the knee on the neck, but I'm just saying in general, all the cases that you bring, like, why would I shoot somebody? Because they're running after me to kill me, or I think so, or for whatever reason, my brain triggers me into a state of behala. The point I'm making, I'm just using this for illustrative purposes. You could agree with my politics or not, but I don't have such strong opinions about it. But what I'm saying is a state of bahala is a state of panic. I want to just spend one more minute on this and then get into the Nefesh Hachaim. But it's important for me that the definitions, and we spent last week also talking about the definition. But Chazal have a halachic concept. Let's just learn a din together. There's a din of Adam Bahul al Mamoinai. Okay. Wow. Bahala. Nafshi nivhal ma'oid. What is Adam Bahul al Mamoinai? Machlekes in the Gemara if Adam Bahul al Mesai. What does it mean? So, but let me just teach a halacha for a minute. We'll be showing halachas. One of the most confusing halachas in the Shas. Why? Because the Adam Bahul al Mamoinai, let's stick with that one, is sometimes creates a kula and sometimes creates a chumrah. What's the chumrah? The chumrah is that if somebody, God forbid, they come home from shul and they see their house is burning down on Shabbos. So says the Gemara Mefurish, Shabbos Kuf Tesayin probably, and in Shin Lamed Aleph and in Shulchan Aruch, that you're not allowed to go into the house and save your things. I'm not talking about lives. Lives are pikuach nefesh. But they're talking about, let's say, things, stuff. You want to save your money or your wallet or whatever is your Picasso. So you're not allowed to save your things on Shabbos. The Gemara says, "Amai." You go in there and save the Picasso. Picasso's worth $100,000 or something like that, and you're taking it out. Let's say there's an eruv. You're taking it out. So what is it? Muksa, machmas, chasar, and kiss. Come on, take my painting out. Let's say it's not muksa, machmas, chasar, and kiss. I take it out and I bring it to the shachin through an eruv. So why is it usher to do? What's this gzeres chachamim? Such a harsh gzeres chachamim. So the answer says the Gemara, Amareish Lakish Adam Ba'alam Amoinai. And it means to say that if we allow this person to run into their house to save their Picasso, they're going to start putting out fires. And putting out fires is a deraisa. Kiboy is an issa deraisa. Okay, so the Gemara questions: Is kiboy issa deraisa? Is it a malacha shesrich legufa? Not for our Inyan. You'll chazer Shabbos kuf tazayin, and you'll see the sugya. But the point is that Adam al Baal Amamoinai means that when I am in a state of Chazal understood something so deep. When I am in a state of panic, I'm not going to be machalik between Masha Mutter or Masha Aser. And if this Jew, Erlich Yid, is running into a burning house, and he says, all right, let me just save this, let me just save that, even a Sefer Torah, when I'm in that house, I'm in a state of Bahala, yes? So what does Bahala mean? There are no rules. There are no midas tovos. I just got to get out of here. I got to get out of here alive, and I've got to get this stuff out of here. And even if it's not your life, even if it's money, Chazal said a drasha, Adam Bahal al Mamoinai, that a person gets into a state of panic over their money, over their stuff. Freik the Gemara, what about if you have a mace in there? God forbid your relative was dead and he's lying in wait in the house. So this is a Gemara, Shaila in the Gemara. Machlokes is Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. If Adam Bahal al Meisai, if not Adam Bahal al Meisai. But anyways, there's a Gzeres Chachamim, and that's Asr Ba'alacha, and it's brought in Siman Shin Lamed Daled, I believe, in Shulchan Aruch Chaim. You can look up the halacha. There's another halacha. Mishnah you're all familiar with, in Masechta Shabbos. Misha hichshich alav aderech. Somebody's on the bus, on the Muncie bus, coming back from Manhattan, and the bus gets stuck in traffic, and I got to get out and walk because it's Shabbos and we're Shomer Shabbos. So, and the bus driver is Jewish, and here I am on the Palisades Parkway. I hope you can all relate to my geography, but that's where I was for many years. And I was in that exact situation. So the question is, Beseder, I'll take the trek, but am I allowed to carry my wallet? Am I allowed to carry my cell phone? That's the question. Says the Gemara, you know what? If there's a guy nearby, take it out of your pocket, let the guy carry it. Why? Because they turn it into a malach d'Rabbanan. Why? Because Adam Baal Amamoinai. You're in a state of panic, and if we don't allow you to do this Aveira, you're going to end up doing Isurei Deraisa. You're going to hitchhike already, and you're going to start driving cars and whatever you're going to do. So you see what happens? Adam Baal Amamoinai is the same principle, which is used L'chumra by a Dleika and L'kula with Mishich Shechalav Aderech. I'm saying a halacha, complicated halacha, but that's the din. But same Adam Baal Amamoinai. It's because Chazal were oimed on the psychology of the human being, or at least a Jew, and they say that once you're in a state of Bahala, B'nafshi nivhala moed, once you're in a state of Bahala, go try to understand what you will do in that state of Bahala. And sometimes Chazal, in their unbelievable wisdom, decided that we should be Mekel, and sometimes they decided we should be Machmir. Because look, if the whole purpose of the D'Rabbanan is so you shouldn't come to a Deraisa, so Chazal says come to Amar Reish Lakish, but this D'Rabbanan is going to come to a Deraisa Gufa. So do a D'Rabbanan to protect the Deraisa Hagufa. Mashenkin running into a fire. All these should be theoretical for all of us, but I just wanted to explain the word Bahala. So,
Rabbi Haber, can ask in a sense, the period we're living in now seems to be a period of extreme Bahala. At least, I personally feel that. Has this, in any way, the third lot of 2,000 years didn't discuss Bahala.
Correct. And Bahala,
so
it's all part of the Golus. Golus equals Bahala. And Golus gets stronger before it gets better, in some ways. The Geula is coming, Kima. We're here in Eretz Yisrael. There's Kibbutz Golios. But at the same time, Golus gets stronger. And when Golus gets stronger, Bahala gets stronger. Confusion gets more. Look, what do you need more than the Chazal say? Basan Cherevu Bilbil Esa'umais. What was he doing? Let's create mass confusion in this world. Who's on top? Who's on the bottom? Who's in charge? Yeah. So what we're there's no, what's the whole? I was in the '60s. Anybody else here was in the '60s in America? God, you got the same color beard that I. Yeah. So we always say this. If you remember the '60s, it means you weren't there. But the whole point, they were basically good people and came out a lot of good things from it. But the whole point was, civil disobedience. So, like that was the point. Like, nobody in a tie is going to tell, young people what to do. And everything that we've taken as law and order is going to be stopped. Now, I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. It was an interesting sociological metzius of being in a revelation. I don't know if what's going on now, for instance, peaceful protests, violent protests, I don't know if it's different. It's basically social disobedience, civil disobedience. If it's in violence, it's to an extreme. Usually, that's not so good for the Jews, Agav. But it changed the world. I was struck. I'm sorry for schmoozing so much, but I'm trying to make a point here. But when I moved from America to Australia, and it's a long time ago already, but and I said, wow, like everything is like different over here. I don't mean they speak with a different accent or it's sunnier or something like that. But like the mentality was completely different. Businessmen were different, bankers were different, electricians were different. Everybody was different. Like I was trying to be homemade on like the people are people. I mean, why is it different? And why is it so much more formal? In a certain way, it's much more formal. And the answer is that they never went through the '60s over there. Never had the whole thing. They skipped the whole business. There was no communes on hilltops over there. There was no bucking the system. Until 1968 or something, there was a Negro law. You couldn't, if you were a Negro, you weren't allowed to immigrate to Australia. And okay, thank God they got rid of that law, but they kept all the rest of them. And you felt it, by the way, as a Jew, in my opinion. But the point was that this revolution is, in a sense. Is it a good thing, bad thing? Go join it if you want to, but it's Baha'u'llah of the Gullus. Ad sheyadu kulam is das Hashem, until everybody keeps the das Hashem and keeps the mitzvahs Hashem b'simcha, b'tuv levav, and they know that it came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem runs the world. By the way, when we're talking about the Geula, we're not talking about anything loy b'shamayim hi. We're talking about a good world, that's all. Just a world that works. And the reason it works is very simple. Let's get rid of the Baha'u'llah. Let's get rid of the Voihu. So what we're talking about, remember the first Yesod that I said, and I'm going to get back to it on Sunday more, but please don't forget this Hakdama, because for me it's very important. That Tayu Vavoihu is Ladati, Torah u'mitzvahs, which means tayu means just a lack of purpose, a lack of understanding of the world, a lack of what we're doing here altogether. Tahoim, tohu, and vohu means bahala, which is a state of chaos, which is not a lack of Torah. And Nefesh Hachaim here is speaking about the first 2,000 years was tayu, and if we wouldn't have Torah, it's not that the world would disintegrate. And let's understand this maturely for a moment. He doesn't say the world would disintegrate. But if we would be no Torah in the world, it's not like poof, whoa, where'd the world go? No. If there would be no Torah at all, the world would be in a state of if there would be no Torah at all, rather, the world would be in a state of tohu. Meaning purposeless. What's this all about? What's this for? And we'd be walking around. And I would imagine Torah leads to vayu. Because what we have to contribute, and this is where the Nefesh Hachaim is going to, run with this, which is so extremely important for what we're doing, is being masakin the tayu. And here's the hint word for our next limud, by creating malchus. I leave it with you. A good Erev Shabbos. All be matzliach and everything.
Shabbos.